He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
We are on the air. We're back with a special edition of Angry Mortgage featuring my friend, Kerri Reed, owner, principal broker, Premier Mortgage Center, Ontario. And welcome.
Hi, Ron.
We've known each other a long time.
We have known each other a long time.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's mainly because I'm old. You started when you were what, like a teenager?
15. No,
yes, really. Let's stay with that.
Let's stay with that.
Because I think Frances did that with the part-time bank teller. She really was only 16. Frances was only 16.
I was 16. I started in the banking industry at the age of 16. I had to wait until my 16th birthday before Phil Campbell would hire me at the Royal Bank in Georgetown, Ontario.
You know, this is so hard for people in their 20s today to understand, because they're growing up in a different generation. Mm-hmm. And first of all, it's tracking through their minds like, how can a minor work in a bank? Like a 16-year-old work in a bank? Of course, we know it was pretty goddamn common, right?
It was common.
It happened all the time.
It was. Okay. I mean, that's small town for me too.
Sure.
And my mother worked at the branch.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time in there as a kid.
So we have all the young people saying, first of all, how can you be 16 and work in a bank? It seems like it should be illegal. And two, they're saying, who the hell works at 16? Like part-time or otherwise? Like, I mean, we never worked at 16. I know some of you did. Yes, I know some of you did. 20-year-olds. Yes, I know you did. I am exaggerating, but I'm suspicious that there's less people working at anything at 16 as much, right?
Agreed. Like, and that wasn't my first job.
Oh, Jesus, no. What was your first job?
No. Outside of babysitting at a young age, my first job was at a place called Crawford's Pine Valley Farms, which is like a bakery, right?
Yep.
A bakery market it was just outside of Norval, so between Georgetown and Brampton. And I worked every Saturday and Sunday at 5 a.m. I would go in to peel the apples, to make the apple pies fresh.
Jesus.
We would then sell all day. Everything was made fresh, and then you would do it all over again the next day. Yeah.
How old were you then?
14 or 15 at that point.
So now we got some people like are going on their Google and looking up child labor laws in the past. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Look, I just be honest with you folks. Like I was also in this little independent bookstore in Vancouver. I was like sitting in it taking, cash from this little tiny store when I was 15. I mean, we did a lot of somehow people worked younger part-time years ago, a long time ago. Okay. But you're not old. Like I won't ever get really, really goddamn clear on this. Kerri is like generationally younger than I am. Okay.
Yes.
Like is much younger than I am.
Yes.
So even though we've known each other a long time, Kerri did start early. And for the folks who don't know about Premier Mortgage Center, although I think everybody in the mortgage brokerage business in Ontario knows about it. And a lot of the lenders know about it. That's for damn sure. Mm-hmm. Premier is one of the largest mortgage brokerages in Canada. And you're from Ontario all the way out to the Maritimes, 5 provinces.
Right. We're in all provinces in Atlantic Canada now.
Right. And you guys sort of dominated Atlantic Canada, right? Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. Yeah, we've grown exponentially. Premier Mortgage Center started in Nova Scotia. Mm-hmm. Don and Dave started Premier in Nova Scotia. And then very quickly we opened up in Ontario. But, it's been 17 years now and we're in all provinces. Yeah, we're quite large.
So now, Don McVicker is your partner.
Yes, he is.
And Don McVicker is a great guy. I've known Don also for a very long time. And for, just as a side note, okay, Don is one of the, into this day, because Don isn't a kid anymore, okay?
No.
But Don is one of the best looking men in the mortgage business, okay? Like, seriously. Don is a good looking man. I mean, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that. But, I'm not like attracted to him, but like he's a good looking man, okay, and fun and a great sense of humor, and he's a really good guy. So
he's a great human.
You picked a great partner.
I did pick
a great partner. He's a really good. And Don, you're a good looking man. You've had your opportunities before. You've been so happily married now for a few years, but you had your opportunities. Just the truth. Good looking guy, Don McVicker. So Don's thinking right now, are my agents watching this goddamn podcast?
Right,
the son of a bitch butler is pitching
Kerri,
me. Like, what's going on? Why did you let this guy say this? Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. So that's just the truth, though. Anyway, I've been really looking forward to sitting down with Kerri because she has a very important perspective on the mortgage brokerage business in Canada, because there's really only about 5 or 6 or 7 mortgage brokerages of your size and volume and how you operate, right? I mean, you are at the top of the class.
Yeah, there's a healthy handful of us that manage and support as many agents as we do, and as much volume as we do. So those two going hand in hand. There's a healthy handful of us across the country.
So for the public who are not in the mortgage brokerage business or in the lending business, the idea here is that you can have you're essentially a franchise, and you have agents who are attached to you because they're in Ontario and really in every province. There has to be one human who's responsible for a brokerage in every province. And that person has to be the leader, the compliance person, the supervisor, and that's the principal broker. We call it principal broker in Ontario. They have different names for it in other places. But that's where the buck stops. And you can run it in a lot of different ways. You could actually have more agents than you have, and I know brokerages that run this way. More agents that you have, all doing no business. Okay, it's if you're in the real estate business, you're familiar with it. There's some brokerages that are some real estate brokerages are full of tons and tons of agents who are doing nothing. They're doing one end a year, they're doing no ends a year. Okay, and then there's real estate agencies who are full with just big producers. So I think it's fair to say that you run it as healthy, solid producers, mortgage originators, and in a very decent big number. Is that a fair statement to make?
Yes, that's a very fair statement to make.
Because not everybody runs it that way.
No, our focus is on the individual success of the agents and brokers.
Yeah, and to that extent, I don't think you have done any mortgages for years yourself, right?
10 years now? It's been
nothing.
10 years.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, I would say it's been 10 years now. I get involved in the business every single day. I get involved in individual deals every single day, but I do not do my own business and have not for at least 10 years. I mean, maybe it might even be a bit longer. Yeah.
So by the way, that's an important distinction in the mortgage brokerage business because there are some mortgage brokerages that are really just designed to supply the principal broker. The people working at the mortgage, the other agents, the agents and brokers, are really there to sort of supply the principal broker who's doing a ton of business with some backup for his expenses or his or her expenses. Is that fair to say too? We've seen it. You and I have seen it.
We've seen it. Yeah, we've seen it.
And we've also seen people who just do a massive amount of recruiting of brand new people to extract money from them in desk fees and outrageous education costs.
That too happens,
with no expectation that they might ever do any business at all. We're just going to extract income from them. Okay, we've seen that too.
Yeah, I think in that model, Ron, the accountability is solely on the agent themselves, right? You need to be the self-starter. You need to make yourself successful. And if you choose not to, that's on you. In our model, we like to be accountable with the agent and the broker. So their success is something that we work on together.
So tell me, how did this all start? So that you didn't just, because as a friend of mine, Scott Peckford, always says, nobody left high school desiring to be a mortgage broker. Okay, like you might want to be a doctor, you might want to be an artist, you might want to be a writer, you might want to work in media, might want to build things, like get out there in construction or whatever. But nobody ever when they talked to their guidance counselor in high school ever said, yeah, it's mortgage brokerage for me. Okay, like no one ever said that. So tell us how you got into the business.
True. I think the entrepreneurial spirit has always been in me. Actually, Francis and I have spoken about this quite a bit. I grew up with a father who owned his own business for 35 plus years in a really small town. So my father owned CarQuest auto parts stores. So I grew up in greasy garages, also similar to Francis and her father.
Maybe that's why you don't mind my awful language.
It could
right?
be. It could be. But I also grew up with a mother who worked for the Royal Bank. Again, I'm in a small town. And I would spend my after school days in the back rooms of the Royal Bank doing homework, or at one of my father's shops. I was given the unique opportunity at the age of 16 to become a teller, at a time when my friends were making, I want to say it was $4 an hour was minimum wage, maybe or 5.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was making like 12, right? Working Thursday
Sweet
nights.
Jesus, you were rich.
Thursday nights, Friday nights, and Saturdays. Yes. And I learned everything I could. I was given such a great opportunity. I had really great mentors in there. I went off to university. I went to the University of Waterloo. I have an economics degree. And one of the first things I did when I arrived there, knowing I still had to somehow make some money, is I walked down the street to a local Royal Bank branch and told them, listen, if anyone calls in sick, here's my manager's name. And I've been working for, 3 years now, whatever it was. I can do almost every job that's in, the client facing side of the branch here.
Sure.
Right. And I would probably get a call once a week. So I would skip classes and I would actually go to work. But I would be making some money. I continued in that banking side, even when I finished university. I got my CSC, my PFP and my CFP and
Jesus.
thought that I would go into financial planning.
By the way, folks, all those are about their accreditations in the financial planning business.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell you, everybody out there who's listening, again, we have a lot of real estate agents, a lot of mortgage people who listen. Those are really, really fucking hard to get. Okay. Like they are not a walk in the park. Okay.
No.
They are, especially all of them. Okay.
That's right.
Like there's actual financial planning accreditation is like serious. Okay. That's the way it works.
Yeah. But I was heavily invested in walking down the path of financial planning, right? This is what I was going to do with people. I started working for CIBC at the time, and I was given an opportunity to be an assistant to a financial planner. And again, I'm in a small town, remember that. So everybody knows who I am because my family's grown up in this town. And I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. I know a lot of these people, but I am intently watching and I'm present in what these financial planners are doing with the clients on a daily basis. And it scared the living daylights out of me.
Why?
I absolutely could, I could talk the talk, but I didn't want to walk the walk.
So you could talk people into investing. You could talk them into investing.
I could talk about investing, but I could not walk that path. I was terrified of what could potentially happen with the future of the financial security of these individuals. It wasn't my passion. I watched how some of these financial planners were doing this, and I watched the passion that they had for it and the love they had for these clients. And I thought, this is terrifying. This is not for me. Not at all. What I did like was the credit side.
Right.
The credit side was something that interested me. CIBC at the time had a program, a division called Home Loans Canada, a hybrid model in the broker space that no longer exists. We were CIBC employees, but we had access to a couple of other lenders that weren't CIBC. So we did have First National
So it was a mortgage brokerage.
It was, but it was a hybrid because you were a CIBC employee.
And mainly want to sell CIBC mortgages.
Correct. Yep. That was the focus, but you did have access to a couple of others.
Hey, at that time, was our buddy Andy Charles running it at the time?
Yeah, so Andy Charles was the president.
By the way, like Andy Charles, one of the best guys in the mortgage business.
One of my favorite humans. Yep. And he taught me almost everything that I know about leadership.
And he is damn good at that.
He sure is.
And he's also, I got a feeling he taught you another thing he's very good at, how to make money in a business. He is also very, very good at that.
Yes, he is. He taught us so much. And I was like a sponge. So I started as a mortgage agent with Home Loans Canada. Believe it or not, Don McVicker was my sales leader. He was my sales leader, and I worked under Don as a mortgage agent. I then moved into sales leadership when Don took on the role of vice president. They divided up Ontario into the GTA and then the rest of Ontario. He became the VP of the GTA. I became a sales leader at that point in time. I'd also had my first child, insert Elaine Taylor as well at this point.
Another wonderful human.
Elaine Taylor, who started in this industry with Home Loans Canada. It was my first day back after having my first son, and it was her first day on the job, and we instantly connected. We can fast forward. Her and I built some really powerful teams of mortgage agents or mortgage specialists at Home Loans Canada. And we eventually grew into a partnership that today is called Premier Mortgage Center. Originally, Elaine was going to be a part of that as well. Some people do know that story. Most people don't. Yeah. She chose the route of MCAP. And
did really, really well there.
She sure did. Yep. And I continued on the path with Don and his brother Dave, who had started Premier Mortgage Center in Atlantic Canada, and 6 months later approached me to say, I think we can do this in Ontario too. Do you want to take the leap with us? And the rest is history.
The rest is history. But by the way, how old were you when that happened?
Okay, so I was
transition.
20. Okay, so I was 29 years old when Caden was born, and I did Premier Mortgage Center when he was 2, so 31. So 17 years ago, because I just turned 48 last week.
So this is an incredible story of people, a person, I should say. You and Don's a couple of years older than you. Good looking man that he is. He's a couple of years older than you, and you at it's a young age to take on a big job, because you ran Ontario, right? You ran the whole province.
I built the whole thing.
You built the whole thing. And that's a pretty young age to have a lot of responsibility in a big operation that you ended up with.
I remember going to my husband at the time. I remember going to him and saying, do you think it would be okay if I didn't make any money for a year? And him looking at me like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? We have a 2-year-old. We have and I said, but I really think that this is going to work out. I really do believe that we can build a house, is what I referred to it as. Premier Mortgage Center was a house. Mm-hmm. And this house was going to have rooms. Each agent or individual could have their own room. They could share rooms, but there were going to be common areas too. And no one was going to be able to lock a door. We were going to have keys to all the doors. And if you actually wanted to adventure...
Were they going to share a bathroom? I'm just checking. I mean,
we would make sure that everyone had their own bathroom.
All right, that's good.
But I did actually have this picture of a home, right? And which, falls in line with what it is that we do every single day. We put people in homes, or we keep people in homes. And it went as far as, if we outgrow the house, we have lots of property. Mm-hmm. So we can build other houses, and we can also help you build a house if you want to do one by yourself.
So just so let everybody know, because again, there's people in the business, in the mortgage business, in the lending business, in the real estate business who listen and watch the show. And there's a bunch of the general public. So what I want to tell you is this. There's a lot of people believe that we've all just had a great run in the mortgage business for the last 17 years. Okay, that anybody could have been a great success in Ontario in the mortgage business or in the real estate business because the market has just supported us perfectly. Okay, Now, I'm here to tell you that the market has been, up until just pretty recently, the market has been pretty goddamn wonderful. There's no question. I'm not ever suggesting it hasn't been a great marketplace to be in. But Kerri and I both know about many brokerages and even some bank-sponsored lending platforms in terms of mortgage platforms that have all just burnt to the ground in the last 17 years. Like it's not easy. Let's just make it really clear. The market's been great, but this mortgage brokerage thing ain't easy. And I can introduce you to a shit ton of people who did not do well in this thing for the last 17 years.
That's right.
Whereas Kerri and Dawn's operation has done really, really, really well. Okay. And I say that as, we're not really competitors because our operation does something that's entirely different.
That's right.
But
that's part of the success, though, Ron. Let me just tell you, is understanding that you and I are very different.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agents and brokers out there that speak very highly of you and speak very poorly of you.
Oh, tons. Mostly poor. Mostly poor. Like, I mean, you could, the way you could tell that somebody's talking about me in the mortgage business is they start the statement with that fat fuck. Okay. That's how they start off talking about me. Yeah. You've heard that. You have heard that. You have. Okay. So the bottom line is when you run a discount mortgage brokerage, where we're constantly trying to undercut rates that other people are offering, people don't necessarily love that. That's
right.
For sure. Yeah,
but a good chunk of the success lies in the knowledge that you have, right?
Oh, and the knowledge that our group has. Yeah.
And the knowledge that our group has. And understanding that you and I are similar but very different. This is a key point for me because each of the 170 plus agents and brokers that we have at Premier Mortgage Center have so many similarities, but each individual is very different.
Right. And we're going to talk in a minute about how Kerri and her operation is addressing what's going on today in the real estate and the mortgage business, because it is a radically different time. The last 18 months has been ridiculously different than the last 12 years. Okay. We're going to talk about that. But one of the important things that I think happened with Kerri as she grew up in the business is that you had to put up with, I'm not going to say that you had to put up with too much ridiculous bullshit from the men who dominate this business. But is it fair to say that there were times when people sort of looked past you and looked to somebody else when they were talking to Premier Mortgage, and that there was a time in the beginning where men sort of didn't completely show you the respect they should have? Is that a fair statement to make?
I would say that's a fair statement. I at 31 years of age, which is when I started and helped build Premier Mortgage Center, I would say today at 48, I don't look like I'm 48, and I'll stand by that. But at 31,
oh, you do not look 48.
At 31,
you do not look 48.
I
look 108, but you don't. You do not look like 48.
But I certainly didn't look like, and I wasn't loud about it either, which is where I chose to stand. But I certainly didn't look like I was an owner of a brokerage that was on a straight path to some great successes. I mean, we've had some epic fails too, but some
welcome to business,
right? Yeah. But some great success, right? I didn't look like that, and I didn't speak like that, and I didn't. I likely didn't carry myself like that. So in a lot of cases in the early years, I was asked if Dawn or Dave were going to be available to speak. And what I will say, though, is Dawn and Dave, we have to speak for a minute about his brother, Dave.
Sure.
But what I will say is that Dawn and Dave were like my number one supporters, right? There was no one else that they wanted to do this with. And that partnership today is that relationship that I have with both of those men will be forever lived. Dave unfortunately, he passed away 8.5 years ago, right?
It's
That
sad.
wasn't
Very sad.
part of our business plan. But what's interesting, Ron, is I think about him a lot today. He's one of my favorite humans. You know, the mortgage broker industry in Atlantic Canada, I mean, he's an icon. There's an award for him. There's a memorial award for him at the MPC symposiums every year, the Dave McVicker Memorial Award. Like, just one of the most phenomenal humans. And he was 48. He was my age when he passed away
Yeah, it's tough.
from brain cancer. That was not part of our plan at Premier, right?
Yeah.
But one of the most valuable pieces of advice that he ever gave me were in the years approaching, that disease that took him. We would sit in his backyard in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and we'd do business planning. And sometimes he would catch me staring off into space. And I remember this. He said, what's going on, Kerri? And I said, Dave, I just can't figure out. This wasn't part of the plan. You're always part of the plan. It's the three of us. And he said, I understand that. And I said, so I just can't figure out what the picture looks like anymore. I had a picture of a house. We were building a house for people so that in that house, they could build their own successful businesses. And he said, the picture doesn't change, Kerri, just the color does. That's it.
Geez.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll never forget it.
So it's an interesting thing because we've always at Butler, we've always just sort of run a very specific type of operation.
Yeah.
It's got a very narrow gauge. And Kerri's the opposite. She's got this big collection of people. Again, a bunch of people in Atlantic Canada.
Lots of colors.
Lots of colors, lots of different folks. But I would say I've met a lot of Kerri's people over the years because they're typically a group of very successful mortgage people. And I notice a couple of similarities about them. But why don't you expand on that, Kerri? You've suggested to me that they're all different, but there's some things that cut through all of them. Is that a fair statement to make?
That is a fair statement. I think we mapped this out. There was strategy to this. If we were going to build something bigger than ourselves called Premier Mortgage Center, and we were looking to build that not just for ourselves, but for a group of agents and brokers, we never really expected that it would be this many. But we had a specific list, or there were specific criteria where we were going to be able to bring value to these individuals, those people that truly wanted to build a business for themselves and actually needed the support doing it. Not every broker or agent wants or needs the support, right? We provide a tremendous amount of support in growing your business. That's what we do. Premier Mortgage Center is a business in itself, right? The brokerage itself is a business that has to support 170 plus individual businesses. So the commonalities for the agents or the brokers are those that actually are wanting to build this as an independent business, their own independent business, but need the structures and the walls and the foundation to do that.
So let me say this: in these years because I've known Kerri pretty much since that point at the beginning. I'll know to tell you one thing about Premier Mortgage. I don't know too many people who left Premier Mortgage unless you and Dawn thought it was a good idea.
And even then, there were very few of those as well. But
you keep your people.
We keep our people.
Yeah.
They've become our family,
Yeah.
right? We truly are a family. The culture is something we're really, really proud of. And there aren't many that we would have asked to move on for many different reasons. But there are some that have also moved on because intentionally they've built themselves to be something that no longer needs our partnership.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
We both know of people who you guys have. You've helped them so much they opened their own brokerage.
Yes.
Okay, that's reality.
Yeah.
And we both know some of those folks. And that's fine. They've gone on and done well because that's just,
absolutely.
That's just the way it goes. If you've got good people and you give them a runway, you give them a path to growth, eventually some of them will take it out of the brokerage. That's just the way it goes every single time. Not everybody, but a few. And
a few want to do that. Yeah.
Some people just want to be in their own businesses totally and utterly on their own. That exists. So thinking about the marketplace as it is today, and you live in Ontario. We're in Ontario. You have obviously that great exposure to Atlantic Canada that gives you a sort of a different perspective on how things can work. But we are in a world today in Canada where there is this endless housing affordability problem. Price of the houses are just too goddamn high. That's it. And you were speaking to me earlier about how even in Atlantic, which has traditionally been relatively very low priced houses, that's all changed.
It has all changed. You see a lot of people flooding to Atlantic Canada because the affordability and what they can get for those prices is closer in reach than anything that they could ever look to here in Ontario.
And these are people coming from Ontario.
That's right. Yeah. They're coming from Ontario, just as you see people flooding to Alberta, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
That's exactly what's happening. And I mean, that brings great opportunity for those individuals, not necessarily those that are in Atlantic Canada, but for someone looking to uproot themselves and move that way. But it's also, as a result, it also drives up the price, right? It's a supply and demand issue there as well.
Yeah, they're not building millions of houses there. Yeah, that's for sure.
Not yet.
No,
not yet. Although I will say that, downtown Halifax is this big, vibrant city. Michelle Drover's our VP of it in Atlantic Canada. And, the last couple of times I've been to Halifax, I'm in awe of how many cranes are in that city. Yeah. These gorgeous restaurants and condos that are being built, right? So, but again, they can't keep up with the demand.
Sure.
Right? Just as we can't here in Ontario, right?
And is it a fair statement to make that, when we think of some of these people, and they're a diverse group, the people who came from Ontario to the Maritimes, but in some if we take the retirees, for instance, people who sold their, made a shit ton of money on their Ontario house, sold it, came out to Atlantic Canada to retire. They've sort of changed the price bracketing in those areas, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Again, a supply and demand challenge, right? It's looking for that healthy balance. So prices are higher than we've ever seen them out there as well. Which brings some value, but also disadvantages people.
Some stress to the people who live there all their lives.
Oh,
right?
yeah. There's a lot of stress. I mean, the government recognized, and the specifics on this, I'd have to look it up. But earlier this year, there was in Nova Scotia a non-resident tax that was put into play for
Canadians, not for foreigners, for Canadians.
Right. Yeah, for Canadians that were making their way out there, right, to the beautiful, right side to this country that we all love, right? Yeah.
So here's the funny part:
the focus has always been on the left side, right, and the West Coast.
Yep.
Now look at the East Coast, right?
Well, it is true that we in our own lives we've talked to people who've sold their homes and moved to Atlantic Canada, retired in Atlantic Canada. There's a couple of people I know in social media that they even run constant commentary on it. Yeah, I've been here for a year now. I'm doing this. I'm doing that.
Right.
And they're mostly all retired. And although there's obviously young people moving out there too because it is affordable. I'll put it this way. Ontario's goddamn hopeless, and there's a glimmer of hope in Atlantic Canada for young people to buy. But here's the thing. We got to realize that it's also very impactful on their healthcare system. Because if you start importing retired people, if you just flood those Atlantic provinces with retired people who had a pretty elderly demographic already,
right?
I mean, it's just a big upset.
Yeah, the healthcare system, is... There's so much strain on the healthcare system out there. And I'm not someone who can speak clearly to it. Obviously Dawn and Michelle could speak heavily on this topic, but that's right. It's the stress that gets put on everything when people are flooding into an area, right?
Sure. Because we talk about it on this pod all the time. There are some positive benefits to an endless upward spiral in house prices for the people who own the houses already. Okay.
Right.
But there is a lot of negatives for the people who don't own the houses or for the people who are affected by this kind of artificial wealth coming from one place to another. Okay?
Right.
Which is what we see all the time.
And on top of it, I mean, you look at the other industries in the Atlantic provinces, but the weather has not been kind to the East Coast.
No. Wow.
Especially not in the last year, right? Where there's, designated hurricane seasons now and fires.
Fires, for God's sakes. It's unbelievable.
It's just devastating, right? It's just devastating to an area that doesn't necessarily have the support. I mean, our West Coast the support is there and they still can't manage the fires, right? That happen. But the East Coast's not used to that, right?
Yeah, I would suspect that, I'm originally from British Columbia, and, people have been dealing with forest fires in British Columbia for basically for eternity.
That's right.
And but I think it's a relatively new thing. This size of the fire problem in Atlantic Canada is very new.
That's right.
Never heard
very
of it before.
So. It is very new.
Yeah, lots of, these are issues. We talk about it all the time. But let me come back to your work in Ontario. Mm-hmm. And we are, it has been an incredible 18 months in Ontario since these rates have started going up.
Very challenging.
And here's the thing about Kerri's situation is she's dealing with this big group of advanced, successful mortgage brokers who are now experiencing something they may not have experienced for 10 years.
Mm-hmm. I call them experienced and advanced businesses because each individual agent or broker is a business in themselves, right? So supporting that in the last 18 months and what will be the next 18 months has been challenging and will continue to be challenging.
Because, we had, there was just to let everybody understand it, there was the record year in the history of the mortgage business was 2021. Mm-hmm. There's never been as many mortgages done. There's never been as much mortgage volume. There's never been as many units. There was a massive increase in the
fish were jumping into the boat. You didn't even have to cast a line.
You didn't have time to put bait on. I mean, the fish would jump in and the business was astronomical. And then, 22 showed up and it was a great first quarter, also busy as hell. And then the Bank of Canada rate increases caught up with everybody because the Bank of Canada rate increases were front run by the fixed rate increases. Mm-hmm. And pretty soon we've got mortgage rates in the 6s when they used to be in the 2s. Mm-hmm. Okay. And less.
Or below.
Or less than 2. Okay.
Right.
So this radical change, fastest increase in rates in the history of this country. Mm-hmm. Rates have never gone up this fast. And as we went through 2022 into 2023, it was a very slow fall. It was very, very slow the second half of 2022. A little bit of a rally this spring when rates dropped. The sort of rumors of the sort of implication of a possible U.S. banking crisis in March of this year sort of came and went, but there was a brief period of time, maybe 2.5, 3 months, where there were rates in the 4s. Some rates were in the 4s. They weren't 6s anymore, and the market came back a bit, and now it is gone again. Like it is gone, and there's no 4s coming anytime soon. There's no mortgage rates with a 4 in front of it coming anytime soon, not for the rest of this year. And I think it's fair to say in the last 4 weeks, Kerri, we have seen it return to that incredibly slow and almost non-existent level of purchases that we saw in same time last year.
Purchase transactions.
That's
right.
But even any kind of mortgage transaction is tough right now because it qualifies as such a... So speak to that. You deal with your own group of, as you say, successful businesses who are agents in the mortgage world. And this doesn't look good for the next year to come. So how do you work with them every day? What do you tell them? Well, how do those conversations work out?
Our focus is on the knowledge which brings power, right? The more you know, the more you can provide to your client base. I think those agents and brokers that are heavily focused on real estate relationships have a higher impact than those who have built their database and their business is working for them as opposed to them having to continue to build their business, right? Their business is working with them.
So some of your people, their focus was just on working with their existing clients and getting referrals from those existing clients. Is that fair?
That's right. That's fair.
All right.
Yeah.
And those that were highly focused on real estate, they had a great year in 2021, and now
everybody had a great year.
Everybody had a great year.
Everybody had a great year in 2021.
It was the record year of all records.
It was a record of all records of all records.
And you know, there's and some people got high in their own supply and believed it would go on for eternity.
That's right.
Okay? We know some brokers and brokerage owners who bought a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Whole shit ton of stuff they bought, like extra houses, extra cottages, extra jet skis.
Extra everything.
Extra. Okay.
You're right.
So, not so much anymore.
That's right.
So,
but the impact is consistent, right? You have agents and brokers who are not only struggling with their own challenges, whether it be mental exhaustion, having to manage the emotions of themselves and their clients. Maybe it's financial struggles, right? Their own financial struggles.
Right.
Their own financial struggles.
Yeah.
There isn't one person that may not be struggling as much as another, but every single one of us is impacted by the changes that we're seeing in our individual businesses.
Yeah,
right?
If the banks tell us they're down 45% in mortgage origination, then obviously everybody's down. Like the banks are a pretty good representation of where everybody is.
That's
now,
right.
In a whole universe, and like I said, Kerri works with a huge number of mortgage business people, but they're all different.
They're all different.
But you can't escape if the banks are down 45%. Nobody escapes. Okay.
Nobody escapes. Some are just able to weather the storm. I won't say better, but differently than others. Mm-hmm. Everybody has, some level of support in different ways. And as the owner of the brokerage, right, we're continuing to focus and lean into the agents and the brokers and identify exactly where it is that they're struggling. That's what our focus is. Even though they're all very consistent, I mean, I see the volumes, I see the commissions, some may still be, executing, hundreds of transactions a year, but the revenues that they're receiving for those transactions are different.
Yeah, they're down.
Yep. Right? Shorter terms.
Yeah, if you sell if you sell a 3-year instead of a 5-year fixed, 3-year fixed instead of a 5-year fixed, you make 40% less revenue.
That's right.
Simple as that.
So everyone's experiencing some level of uncomfortable, right? They're in some uncomfortable position. Some are just experiencing it more intently than others. So our job as a brokerage is to sort through where it is that they're uncomfortable and provide support. And what I feel that Premier Mortgage Center can do, we have an abundance of experience and knowledge, and we have our own mentorship right in the center of the brokerage, right? And we lean in on each other, right? So if we can identify the individual gaps of the agents and brokers during this time, and in 2024, it'll be different than 2023. So it's not like we figure it out and we've solved the problem, right? Or we've solved the challenges. There's more to come. It's endless change. Yeah. So we just have to continue to stay connected with the agents and the brokers and provide them with the support that they need collectively and individually.
So this is a great point, because what, again, people outside the industry don't understand is that mortgages can become, sometimes they're very simple, but a bunch of the time they're very complicated. Again, the product itself isn't complicated. Here's this much money, here's this much interest rate, these are the payments, make the payments, everything will be fine.
Right.
But it's getting there. It's the application process. It's getting the mortgage approved. It's getting the mortgage funded. There's a degree of technical difficulty that occurs at least today, at least 50% of the time, that is challenging and requires knowledge and skills and background, and also requires relationships with lenders.
Yes.
That not every mortgage brokerage has. Let's just be honest. Let's just put it out there.
That's right.
There's some mortgage brokerages that will tell you they have all these lenders, but what they all really have is they've just got some lenders that their network says they can use, and none of those lenders really give a shit what that brokerage thinks. Okay.
Right.
You've got to have a certain level of respect from individual lenders, which I could just say, Kerri alluded to it earlier. There's like 5 or 6 or 7 huge independent brokerages across Canada. They might be affiliated with the big networks, but still they operate on their own. Okay. And they have those kind of big, solid relationships with lenders that they can get things done. Okay. And this is the challenge. And this is what the public doesn't realize is that there is, every mortgage broker is not the same. Every mortgage brokerage is not the same. There is a bunch of mortgage brokerages that are actually, I will just put them in the category of amateurs. And there's a bunch of mortgage brokerages like Kerri's, and I hope our own, that you would say these are professionals. These are people who are deeply steeped in mortgage brokerage knowledge, lending knowledge, how to get an application process.
Right. That are actually running successful individual businesses.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
So, but it's tough today because I would suspect that those people who, you've got a lot of long-time agents, people who have been in the business for a long time, and they must be getting calls today, because I know we do in our business, getting calls from people in difficult situations. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. Their clients are in difficult situations. Right. And we would love to help everybody. We would love to have a solution for everybody. Right. But sometimes there isn't.
Because if you got a renewal that used to be 2.89 and now it's 6.49, you might have a problem on your hands, right? That's a fair statement.
Yeah, you might have a problem on your hands. You may not have a problem in terms of whether or not you're going to get approved on that renewal. You can just sign and
take it.
It may not mean that we can take you to another lender that might have a different solution that might work better for you. But then we're up against, the 72 other reasons why you don't qualify in today's environment. And maybe there's more than 72 reasons.
Chief of which is you're going to qualify at like 8.5%, which is not easy.
That's just one of the many reasons. Yeah. Right. So they're looking for solutions, but there's not always a solution. Yeah. Right. However, if you are surrounded by the support and the people that can help you and enrich you with knowledge and fill you with, we'll call it tips, information, pieces, strategies, right? Yeah. It's now solution based, right? There's no more, we'll go back to many people think that you're a competitor, right? You're a discount rate brokerage. Everybody knows that it's no longer about rate, Ron.
I like to think it is. First, there's a few perfect people left.
There is a few perfect people
left. We're going to cultivate
left.
Those perfect people, and we're happy to give them very low rates. But I think I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but what Kerri is suggesting is there are some problems that rate doesn't solve, that a low rate doesn't solve.
Many of today's problems rate does not solve.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
We're in an environment where rate is something that everyone is talking about because rates are higher than many people have ever seen.
Correct.
But we're also in an environment where house prices are higher than we've ever seen.
Batshit crazy house prices. Yes,
right?
Correct.
Where income is stagnant for most people.
Absolutely. We have not seen income growth in Canada. I'll give you a really simple example. The minimum wage in Ontario, I think, just went up to $16.50.
Okay.
In Australia, the national minimum wage is $21.
Wow.
So we are a little bit behind in a lot of ways on income in Canada.
That's right.
Take it to the bank. It's the truth.
So income is stagnant. House prices are through the roof. Rates are through the roof. And unsecured debt or even secured debt levels are also just off the charts.
I read a stat just yesterday that the price of cars has gone up like 70% in 5 years. Like, I sort of believe that average car price is up that high. Like, good luck. It used to be, you think back,
I guess I can believe that too. I'm not someone who frequently buys cars.
No, neither am I, actually.
No, I'm not. But for those people that are, I guess that would make sense to me. You know, it's hard to find a car.
No, listen, but 6 years ago, you could find a $27,000 car. I don't think you can find it.
I don't think, no, that might be one that's got 100,000 kilometers on it.
No, but today, you could actually, I remember distinctly 6 years ago, you could buy, not a brilliant car, it's just an inexpensive Mazda car.
Yeah.
But you could buy a car for like 27, 28 grand. Good luck on that, sumbitch now. I mean, you are not finding a car under 30 grand, a new car. You're not finding it.
There's no way,
It doesn't exist.
There's no way. I mean, I bought a Honda Civic for my oldest son. It was 2017, had less than 100,000 kilometers on it, and I paid, this was a couple of years ago, I paid 17 grand for it, right? It had never been in an accident either and had one owner. Like, it took me a long time to find that car.
I think you'd probably sell it today for like 30 grand.
Probably could have sold it for 35.
Yeah, Jesus, it's unbelievable. So yeah, everything is more expensive. But we talked earlier about the fact that sometimes your group is actually finding solutions for people or trying to put Band-Aids on things that they actually don't make any money on.
That's right. In a lot of cases, they are finding solutions and they're providing their service of knowledge, experience, advice.
And better outcomes.
And
yeah.
a better outcome for that individual, even though it might be short term. Use an example. I think we spoke about this earlier today.
Sure.
So in this case, these individuals had, $40,000 in unsecured debt. They did not qualify to refinance.
They couldn't refinance their mortgage.
They couldn't refinance through their mortgage for various different reasons. The solution, which did not provide any revenue for an agent or a broker, was a Band-Aid solution that would have to be managed, but it was a solution to take that unsecured debt to an institution offering 0% interest for 12 months if you transfer your balance, right? If you can save that client, I mean, think about it. $40,000 in unsecured debt is a minimum monthly payment of, right? If you're going to save them $500-$600
in interest,
maybe even $700, right? A month.
So that's what, and I realize that people out there might think, well, Jesus, that's not a lot of money, and B, that's just very temporary. Folks, let me tell you something. Some people just need temporary right now. They just need to get to the other end.
Some people need that $600-$700 a month to buy groceries. Let's just talk about how expensive groceries are right now. For
Jesus,
staying in your home and being able to provide for your family is the goal.
Yeah, nobody has to. I never have to think about groceries. I am a grocery aficionado. Okay, anybody can tell by looking at me. I like my groceries. Okay, and I am buying them. But this is an important consideration that is sometimes lost on politicians and even commentators sometimes. Like, eventually rates will come down. Not next month, not maybe even next year, but someday rates will be lower than today.
That's the best way to put it. It's someday. And we don't know when that someday is.
By the way,
so we have to find
Band-Aids.
Solutions.
Short-term solutions. Get people through to that day in the future. When by the way, rates are never going to be 2.69 again. No, I mean, I'm going to be long dead. You might see it. You're young enough. You might see a 2.69 rate again. Okay?
Under 2%? Under 2%?
No, 2.69.
I know, but I'm just saying there was under 2%.
There was 0.99 for like 6 weeks. Okay,
True.
you get a variable
right.
rate at 0.99, like less than 1%. Folks, I shit you not.
Yes,
there was
that's right.
For a short period of time, a very short period of time.
That's right.
A discount mortgage broker like us was offering a variable rate, 5-year variable rate
at 0.99.
0.99%. Like it was free. It was more better than free because if inflation is 2% and I'm doing 0.99, you're ahead of the game. Okay. Now we all know what happened to a variable rate. I mean, probably some people pissed off at that 0.99 right now, but that they took it. Obviously, quite a few people probably, but yeah, we're going to need to find Band-Aids for people, which we're probably going to make no money at, but just try to figure out some way for them.
No revenue today,
but a relationship.
Those relationships will bring future revenue.
And let's face it.
People are looking for help, support, whatever you want to call it. So my role is to provide that help and support, and I don't do that alone.
No, of course.
This takes a village.
You got 160.
right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of folks. Yeah.
But that's the role, and because their role is to do the same for their clients.
Exactly. And here's what everybody out there should realize, that no matter if you think that people in the real estate business and the real estate realtors can only help you with certain things. They can help you buy or sell a house and try to do it as effectively and efficiently at as best cost as they can. But in the mortgage business, we just get people come to us just for general advice about finance. And you know what? I think that at least 80% of mortgage brokers would stop and say, well, this is what I would do if I were in your position.
That's right.
It's just temporary. It should help. Go check this. Go tell your banker that. Go appeal and ask for this. Go try to get your amortization changed. Go do that. Go do this. We're not going to make any money on it. But we are in our own operation constantly telling people, this is the best we can offer right now.
Right.
You got to try it, though.
These are the solutions we have for you right now.
Reach out and try. You've got to, because your bank is RBC and they're not listening to us. We don't deal with them, okay? But let me set the stage for you of what exactly to say and how exactly to go about it and who to speak to, so you've got a shot at getting your payment down. So we help for free in some cases. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kerri. I'm respectful of your time. By the way, Kerri's, you got to drive for a ways, right? Like you're a ways from here.
Yeah, it took me just under an hour.
Jesus, like folks, when they tell you that there's nothing close to anything in GTA, they're telling the truth. Like you gotta go. This is a big place. You got to drive a lot.
Yeah, you got to drive a lot here. It's just a lot of traffic here too. Right?
Yeah. So so everybody who's talking about, when you hear people talk about those 15-minute neighborhoods, they're full of shit. Okay.
There's no 15-minute neighborhood.
Well, there might be just downtown in one little spot. There may be a 15-minute neighborhood, but holy shit.
I have to tell you though, did you know that the very first office I had for Premier Mortgage Center was on Orbiter Drive?
So you're right here. You're just like a couple blocks away.
Right here.
Jeez, wow.
First 3 years.
Wow. But Kerri, you drove a long way. I really thank you. I love talking to you. No, I love talking to you. One of the really smart, honest, and clear-headed leaders in our business. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
Appreciate it.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.